What's up guys, it's Jacob or DazzaX here, coming to you guys with a new video. This video will be going over the best Azerite traits you should be using for balanced Druid for certain situations, as well as single target, multi-target DPS, more than 5 target DPS, as well, what traits should you stack, why should you stack them, and all kind of stuff as well. But other than that, let's get right into it guys, and I hope you enjoy. So moving into single target DPS, Moomkins have not been the best, like you guys should probably already know already. They have not been the best single target DPS. But with traits, it's been, it's getting better. Let's just say it that way. So the top 7 traits that we can use are Thunderous Blast, Dagger in the Back, Streaking Stars, Laser Matrix, Champion of Azeroth, Reason's Fury, and Tidal Surge. Now, the top 2 easy traits to use, which are the best to use, would be Thunderous Blast and Dagger in the Back. On the why I drew a blank there, but Thunderous Blast and Dagger in the Back. Now, what do I mean by easy traits? The top 2 easy traits, meaning that these supply the most damage, and they're not as skillful as the other traits. Now, there's 2 other traits that require a lot more skill, but they're a lot harder to execute and require a lot more communication with your raid team or your Mythic Plus team or anything along those lines. So Thunderous Blast should begin with the top 2 easy traits though. It deals damage, has a chance to call down a Thunderous Blast, dealing 812 nature damage to the enemy and increasing the damage of Thunderous Blast by 20%. 100% increased damage. Thunderous Blast will critically hit and reset this effect. Now Dagger in the Back. Approximately 5 procs per minute. Your damaging spells and abilities have a chance to fling a dagger at your target, causing them to bleed for 704 physical damage over 12 seconds. Stacking up to 4 times. Stabbing them in the back applies 2 stacks. So obviously, the goal for Dagger in the Back is just to be behind the target. Obviously for questing and all that, it's gonna be kind of hard to do that. So it's mainly when you use in dungeons and that kind of thing. So those are 2 easiest traits to use with the most damage output. But I guess we can move on to the single target best traits that have hard execution. I guess we can first start off with Lively Spirit. Now, Lively Spirit, this is one of the most interesting traits that have come along with the new BFA expansion. Probably one of my favorites as well. Whenever it expires, your intellect is increased by 91 for each spell the target cast is used while using Innervate. This lasts 20 seconds. So what this basically means is, let's put it into perspective, right? At the very beginning of a raid fight, your healer will, you'll cast Bloodlust, and what you want to do is you want to put Innervate on your healer. So every single spell your healer casts, you get 91 intellect, and this can stack up to theoretically 16 stacks because of the 0.75 GCD cooldown that has been in effect. Now, does it happen as much? No. It usually goes to around 12 stacks or so with Bloodlust, at least 16 stacks with Bloodlust. But other than that, basically you can get up to like 1,000 intellect for 20 seconds. Not 20 seconds, around like 10 seconds by the time it actually happens. So 10 seconds, 1,000 intellect while using Streaking Stars. Now getting to Streaking Stars, while Celestial Alignment is active, your damaging spell is called a Streaking Star, dealing an additional 1,659 damage when they are not repeat of the previous ability. Meaning, if you cast Solar Wrath and Solar Wrath, you're not going to get a proc of Streaking Stars. But if you cast Solar Wrath into Lunar Strike, then Star Surge, Solar Wrath, Lunar Strike, Star Surge, Moonfire, Sunfire, every different spell you use, you will get a proc from Streaking Stars. Now, if you pair this up with Lively Spirit, you will do so much damage. You have an insane amount of intellect and a lot more damage coming from Streaking Stars. So the reason these are not at the very top for the DPS marks at least is because people don't know how to pair these well. If you can pair these 2 well, it's an insane amount of DPS you can output. The margins on this are extremely wide. So compared to single target DPS from the easy traits, the hard execution traits, the margins are thousands more DPS compared to the single target that's easy. So what I would recommend, guys, if you're just leveling, you're doing some heroics, doing some mythics, I would go with using the 2 easy traits. That's personally what I'm doing right now, but as soon as Mythic Plus comes out, or even if you have a healer with you, the most important part is that you have a healer. If you can communicate well with the healer during Mythic dungeons and all that, then you use Lively Spirit, because it's a lot better than 2 easy traits, 100%. If you can use it well. If you don't use Lively Spirit well, it will significantly decrease your DPS. So the key is to make sure your healer knows what they're doing with Lively Spirit to most effectively increase your DPS. If they are not, they can completely screw up your DPS based off this trait. As well as Streaking Stars, you have to make sure you use that one correctly too. So I would go with, if you're just going around doing dungeons and all that, just use the first 2 easy traits. If you have a good healer, they know what they're doing, use Lively Spirit. But obviously when it comes to Mythic rating, Mythic Plus rating, and just rating in general, not Mythic Plus rating, Mythic Plus dungeons and rating, I would definitely go with the hard execution ones. Obviously, you need to talk to one of the healers, make sure they know what's going on, because raiding obviously would be a lot more organized than just going to a 5-man pug or maybe like a 5-man group. So raiding hopefully would be a lot more organized so you can time your DPS really well to get a lot of burst damage off the beginning. But that's really it for single target. Let's get into some multi-target, because we all know that Boomkins are so good at multi-target DPS. So multi-target for Boomkins is insanely good, obviously, but one of the main things with the new traits is you have to understand, you know, what traits should I stack in order to do the most output DPS, you know, because there's a lot of different variations, you know, you have 2 targets, 3 targets, 4 targets, and 5 targets that we can really, you know, base our traits off of. So I'm going to go through that right now. So first off, we have 2 targets. Now this is Moonfire spam, meaning that you can just spam Moonfire to do a lot of DPS instead of your APL, which is your action priority list. So what this means is you want to have 2 artifact armor pieces with 2 traits of Power of the Moon. So let's say your shoulder and your chest, you want to have each one of those having the Power of the Moon trait, meaning that this would be the best option for 2 targets. So with 2 targets, I would recommend going with Power of the Moon, obviously, just having 2 of those, and maybe Lively Spirit, just to, you know, get some nice damage going off if you have a nice healer. But overall, if you guys want to Moonfire spam, 2 targets, best would be Power of the Moon. Have 2 of those traits on your gear. Moving on to 3 targets as well. So 3 targets is basically the same thing for Moonfire. Because of the Lunar Shrapnel nerf that we saw by a 70% margin, this is not that good anymore. So what we really want to do with the 3 targets is we want to have a Moonfire, but we want to have 3 traits on all our armor. And that may be kind of hard to get at the very beginning, but if you're lucky enough to have that, and most gear 340 will have that more than others. So the best way to do the most DPS on a 3 target fight would recommend going with 3 traits of the moon, Power of the Moon. Going on to the multi-target though. So the multi-target, basically 4 targets. This would be Lively Spirit. Now, Lively Spirit is something you do want to stack though. So if you can get 3 traits of Lively Spirit on all your armor, your burst will be insane. I mean, it will literally be insane. You can stack up so much intellect that you'll do a lot of damage. So multi-target, I'd recommend going with 3 traits of Lively Spirit on your gear. Now again, guys, it's going to be kind of hard to get this at the very beginning, so I do recommend, if that's not the case, even if you get 2, I would recommend going with 2 pieces of it on some of your gear, but 3 would be the better option for high tier raids and Mythic Plus. So moving on to 5 targets or more, Lunar Shrapnel is actually making an appearance here. This is the best DPS for 5 targets or more. So obviously we saw Lunar Shrapnel in the beta did about 100 damage with 1 piece of gear, but then after the nerfs we saw it go down to 37 damage, which is 70% nerf. It's actually pretty insane. But for 5 targets or more, Lunar Shrapnel will be the best option. Specifically, you want to spec 3 of these traits onto your armor. That way you can get like about 90 damage per Moonfire tick. For 5 targets, you'll do a lot of damage. This is the best way to sustain a lot of your damage, because obviously Lunar Shrapnel, every time you cast Moonfire onto an opponent, or an enemy I should say, you'll be doing a lot more damage with your star fall. So for 5 targets, if you stack 3 of these traits, you'll do a lot of damage. This is specifically for AoE fights, so if you guys are able to manage that, you'll be in really good shape for 5 targets or more. Now this is only for 5 targets or more, guys, so I don't know if you guys want to recommend this with questing if you're pulling that many mobs, but for questing personally, I would honestly go with Moonfire spam, just because Moonfire spam, you can do a lot of damage really quickly and possibly get a Lunar Empowerment proc as well. So that's really it for the multi-target, guys. I will be going into some more in-depth situations where you guys want to use your traits and how to use them properly. So I just want to touch on Lively Spirit just a little bit more before I get out of here. Basically, Lively Spirit, it's such an interesting trait, and to make sure you get the most use out of it, I want to go over one more thing. Basically, if you guys have 3 traits of this, basically means you're stacking it on your chest, your helm, and your shoulders. Incarnation is actually better for single target. Specifically, it's because it's a lot of burst damage. If you have 3 Lively Spirits on you, for traits I should say, and you have Incarnation, obviously Incarnation, it's not the best, you know, for, you know, more than 2 targets and all kind of stuff like that, but if you have 3 traits of Lively Spirit, you'll do a lot of burst damage right up the front, and it's better than Star-Lord because of the burst damage you do. So you'll have a really big damage profile, I should say, when you're using 3 traits of Lively Spirit with Incarnation on single target. You guys could even try it out by yourself to see with a good healer. And also, it's really important to make sure your healer knows that at the beginning of fights to cast 100% of their globals to make sure this innervate is as like beneficial and most powerful as it can be. But really, other than that though, guys, that's really it for the Azerite traits. These are the best ones according to Sims right now, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Obviously, we wish Lunar Shrapnel would be better, but what can you do? I really do hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you all next time. And also, please don't forget to check out my live stream at twitch.tv/DazzaX, where I stream a lot of Boomkin gameplay, mythics, and obviously soon to come, raids, Mythic Plus, and all kinds of stuff as well. And our guild's pushing top 75 in the world, so be sure to check out the stream, guys. And I will see you all later. That was a horrible outro. Later, guys.